Hello and welcome. It is your weekly program that continues to provide that platform for our people to tell the stories of their communities, enrich the lives of all of us, and so contribute to the intangible heritage of Barbados. I'm Sherwood McCaskey. Thanks for joining us. A very warm welcome to our viewers around the world, those of you who are joining us via the World Wide Web. It is the first Sunday in March. Ordinarily, we would be in the parish of St. Thomas, but because of the national pause, we were unable to traverse that parish and conduct the necessary research for my community. The good news, however, during the month of February, the individuals of St. Peter provided us with a wealth of information, and it is from that we build today's program. We are standing on the compound of the Keith Boyce Pavilion. That means we are in Diamond Corner. The program is carried by a retired school teacher, Peggy Jilts, and a retired assistant director of the psychiatric hospital, Lyman Phillips. They begin by placing this community squarely in perspective.
No, from the outset, I can't tell you why it was called Diamond Corner. We just came along and just heard the name Diamond Corner. I must say that it consists actually of three neighborhoods. The Diamond Corner itself, then in the middle it's Welchtown, and then you have Moore Hill. The village is about 1 kilometer in length. From the Moore Hill straight down to the bottom of Diamond Corner is about 1 kilometer in length.
It is a unique village. I believe that there are very few districts that are saddled in between 4 plantations.
As you have Welchtown on the south, there's Portland Plantation on the west,
Castle on the north, and Nicholas on the east.
So actually the tenants live on lands belong to all 4 plantations. That's what is unique about Diamond Corner. I can remember growing up, my address was Castle, St. Peter, but the boundary line for Welchtown was just next door.
And those days with the plantation tenantry, that you got a spot to live on the land, but you had to work on the plantation. And therefore you find that those living at Castle, would be working at Castle, Portland, people work at Portland. And you used to have to pay rent. You would have rent that was collected, you remember, weekly by the plantation. Either you go to the plantation yard and pay the rent, or they would send around a man with a boat to collect. How much you pay then, I can't tell you, but and then there's I know you're talking about shillings.
Another thing about Diamond Corner too is that the way how the houses are located in clusters. You have maybe a family with about 5 houses living in one area, and then you have 4 or 5 houses again living in another area. But the families were like interconnected because you could step from out of your house into your aunt's house or into your uncle's house and your grandparents' house. That it was like.
You never had a lot ready for food. Not the normal food we got in the store like macaroni, I mean like grown food, because because everybody used to plant something. Everybody got pea trees, everybody plant piece of yam, you plant vegetables and what's not.
I live in the area across over there, and it was just my family's house there. It was my grandparents' house, and then my mother, my aunt, and my uncle.
And you would find that I had a lot of people in here who we would call auntie, because of the close relationships. In those days, it was predominantly plantation workers. All the houses in here were chattel houses. There was only actually one house that had stone, and that was the shop. All the others were wood. After the Freehold Tenantry Act, it gave the workers in Diamond Corner the opportunity to own their own lands. And therefore you will see the mass development that takes place now, that it is far different now than it was in those days. There are so many wall houses in Diamond Corner that I believe if my 4 parents had to come back, they would be surprised to see the change that took place. We were fortunate because of education that the children were able then to move up and develop themselves.
That's quite interesting. It reminds me of a section in this book, Notes of a Native Governor General, the memoirs of Sir Elliot Fitzroy Belgrave, written by a retired high school principal and former senator, Alwyn Adams. There's a section in this book when the father of the former Governor General was adamant that his children should never have to work on the sugar plantations. In fact, he insisted that they be exposed to education. Interestingly enough, it therefore means that that thinking existed not only in Boscobel, but it extended here in Diamond Corner as well. Let us take a look at the natural flow of water in this community, the gullies created by that flow over the many centuries, and how this, in a sense, has carved out a special space for many a story to be told, for fun, for the growing of fruit trees, and for recreation.
The village is surrounded by many gullies. You have gullies running from Nicholas Abbey, joining to one of Welshtown, going straight down to Portland. And these gullies were carved out by, all the rainwater that came down from all the 4 plantations.
The plantation would keep the gully and the coastlines clear from wild trees. They would never cut down the fruit trees.
The gullies had lots of fruit trees growing in the wild. There were lots of donks. There was like soursop, sugar apple, there was hog plums, and mangoes, of course. So, but we had to compete with the monkeys. We didn't mind sharing with the monkeys. The monkeys used to be everywhere. So around the gullies out there on the Welshtown side, as well as the castle.
So the end there was full with soursop, sugar apple, donks, and grovers. So you know when in season there was no problem. Some of you going in there to pick grovers or even pick soursops, like my mother and them who would want to carry soursops or spikes down to sell. When you go to pick soursops or sugar apple, when you get there, you could eat your belly full, because some are so ripe already that you eat as much you could while you picking, right? And you do the same thing with grovers.
What is unique about the gullies is that all the rainwater from all these gullies united in Diamond Corner to make one watercourse. So the water from Welshtown went through that gully and went down to join the waters coming from the Portland area, as well as the gullies in the castle. Even where we sit here now, that has been carved out to deflect the water from ground that they're here on now, because all here used to be agricultural land. All these open spaces now were once agricultural land, and the rainwater used to wash the soil from out of this ground here straight across the road. So the plantation took it upon itself to carve an area there where the water flows there and goes down through the gully behind there. Now these gullies were very, very useful in that they afforded us shortcuts to schools. I attended Boscobel Girls' School, and the boys, some of the boys went to the Boscobel Boys' School.
Another group went to All Saints, and you had a few who went to Indian Ground. And those were the schools in the days. Because I remember it was with Sparks, used to be head teacher at Indian Ground, and I had Mr. Riley at Boscobel Boys and Miss Gemma at the Girls.
So of course the journey was very, very long going up to Boscobel, so we used the gullies as shortcuts. And the gullies that we used, we never used the same track twice in the same day. We always had a different road to exit from. So we would go through the gullies to get out to Lower Castle to go up to Boscobel. And when we are on our way back home, we would use another track. Sometimes we make shortcuts through Nicholas Abbey. When the rain falls in the gullies, what we would say, the gully is out. I mean, lots of water, and we can't pass through the gully. We had to walk all around. We call it the main road, which is at Diamond Corner. They enter the village from there. We had to go all the way around there. And sometimes we would get trapped too, because the water flowed through a pond, and that pond was very, very deep. It didn't have any bridge underneath, so the water, when the pond is filled up, it used to flow over the road, and sometimes we would have to join hands together as little children and wade through that water. So whatever direction we went in, we had to walk through a lot of water, but it was fun for us. But during the summer vacation, we spent a lot of time in all these gullies. I explored almost all these gullies around here. The boys used to play cricket in a pond, when it's dried out actually, called Norville Pond. That's a big pond where the waters from all these gullies were gathered down there.
That pond bottom served many purposes. During the wet season, it was a catchment area for the water. The water would have come from Nicholas down to the gully on the other end, and that water would come in when it get to Denman Corner by the bridges. It couldn't get out because there was no outlet there, and that was gallons of water that was stored there.
The road was high, but the water could not get through because there was no bridge under, so when the pond filled up, it overflowed.
And that is what we used to call a beautiful sight. Many days the Advocate newspaper and then will come and take pictures when it's overflowing, because it comes over the road, and over the road, on the other side of the road, the drop-in there is so extremely deep, and you will get a beautiful white waterfall. And when buses have to pass and don't want that overflow, no bus, no car could get to Boscobel. They would have to stay till it done overflow, or they would have to come this way here and go straight up to Nicholas and go up. And with that water in there, that was then become a pond. A few people would go and bathe in the pond, and it was up for wildlife. Like the different birds would fly there, and ducks. Ducks I love going in and out thing. I mean, and it was beautiful watching ducks swimming in the water.
So when the pond is dried, the boys used to play cricket down there. It was called like Norville Pond, right? But sometimes the water took very long to dry out because it had no way of exit. But then again, Prime Minister Owen Arthur was in power. He was able to get a water outlet for the water in the gully. So nowadays, it doesn't hold the water because the water goes through now underneath the gully. But previously, the water came over the road, and it used to be in big torrents where we used to have to hold hands and walk through the water.
Now, when the water leaves the pond and it becomes dry, it now had different purpose. The other purpose now, when it becomes dry, it was a place to graze the sheep. And it was a place for grazing your animals. It was a place for we to catch doves, because now the doves now will come in the pond, in the bottom, and you will set what we call flight stakes and downfalls and to catch these doves. You would get your hollyhock and you would collect the seeds and you put in, or you bring a little piece of corn. Catching doves was something every boy loved to do. Everybody actually got a little cub at home, and when you catch a dove, you carry the dove home and you put it in your cub. And once it's dry enough, not only now for grazing animals, it now become a recreational facility where now the cricket got to play. Once it's dry season, everybody will now come now and fork up. All the boys will come and start forking for wicket, and we will fork this wicket up. And then you had a roller and you roll it, and then cricket play. But the pond was in such a way we never used to bat on two ends on the wicket. You always bat on one end, which was the eastern end, so you always had to bowl up. And then there was no paths. But let me say this, that I'm not sure how many other places in St. Peter even had, for a small community, that had so many spectators when the Sunday come. All those bridges there on both sides of the road used to be filled with people from all over St. Peter and in St. James. People come there every Sunday to watch cricket because it was a beautiful sight. Keith Boyce used to play there a lot, and he was never living in Denman Corner because Keith Boyce lived in Castle, but he would come down there to play. And they assumed this one, the reason why the pavilion up here was named after him, because his close connection to the playing area.
As a footnote to that, I'm sure you will be pleased to learn that very soon, coming to CBC TV8, will be a full documentary series on the life, work and contribution of the late Keith Boyce. The preceding segment of the program introduced the gullies, what was found in those gullies, what the gullies and pond in the community was used for. Now, what happened after this point if the pond were filled with water?
Yes, I was saying that the gullies are all connected in one way or another. The water ended up in one main course and it flowed straight down through Sunbury and Oxford Gully. You know about Sunbury and Oxford? Right. That's one gully I don't know anything about, but I know it went through there. And the water's from Portland as well, down there in Corner, that also connected. So all the water is connected in one, and it flowed all the way down through Sunbury Gully.
Go down to Oxford, and come down by Luke Hill.
And it came up in Allendale.
And make it way straight into 6 Mains, into the sea.
I used to often wonder where it went. And it was only watching the program last week Sunday when I heard the Jets brothers. When I heard that there was a gully out there, because when I passed through 6 Mains, I used to always look to see where did that water come through. I didn't realize that there was a gully as well. And that I was very, very amazed when I saw that. And it flowed all the way down, emptied in the sea at 6 Mains. So that was something that was very, very amazing, that all these waters united and formed one water course all the way down.
This underscores the importance of the natural waterways to the ecosystem and our need to keep them clean at all times.
In terms of recreation, there was no place for recreation. All the fields around here used to be either bearing sugar canes or yams or eddos. Those kind of crops used to be grown here, so we had no place to play. The boys rode their scooters and rollers in the road. We
didn't have electricity, but for me to watch TV, I used to go down to Spikestown, Esplanade. I had the only TV that around the area. You catch a bus and you get on. You catch a 4 o'clock, 4:30. If the bus goes 4:30 or so, you catch that and you get on. But remember, you could only be there till 7 because the last bus for Boscobel was 7 o'clock. So I would go down to Voyage to the bottom of the sea or Star Trek or one of those type of thing. And sometimes when a picture becomes so interesting, when you look the bus ready, you want to run away and leave it and come home. So we would come home.
And we girls, we had to settle at home, and what we did, we made play houses. We built up rots, each of us especially. If you were like grouping a family, we built rock houses, and we made dolls, little rag dolls. And if there was any dressmaker in the area, we used to ask for the cuttings and the cloth and the making dresses, and we used those to sew to make dolls' clothes. Maybe that's where my interest started. From that time into sewing, and even when I was 13 years old, I was making my school clothes when I went to high school. I used to help my sister sew too. My sister, she was older than I was, and we used to get together and design clothes. And she eventually used to make clothes for the people in the neighborhood. When they see us in their clothes, everybody wanted the fashion because we used to create our own line of clothing. That was that. So I learned to stitch on a hand machine that had belonged to my grandmother, a hand machine. And later on, she was able to acquire a pedal machine. And I caught on fast on all 2 of them. As I said before, we had no place of recreation, so occasionally Joseph Niles and his band used to come and put on a concert at the Salvation Army, and you will see the church could not hold the amount of people because we had nowhere to go, so that was like a spectacle when he visited the area, and everybody was down there to hear Joseph Niles and the Consolers. Occasionally too, the mobile cinema, there was no place in here for it to set up, so we used to walk from here up the gates in the boys' schoolyard. We would get in groups and we would walk through the darkness and go up to see the mobile cinema. That was like a spectacle as well.
Other areas used for recreational purposes were Farley Hill and Cherry Tree Hill. How did they reach Farley Hill from Diamond Corner?
We used to go through this cat road here and journey through to get to Farley Hill. That's where we used to have our recreation. On Saturday afternoons or Sunday afternoons, we would get into little groups and we would say we're going in the walk or we're going up to Farley Hill, and we would go there and play around and so on. Or sometimes we used to walk up Cherry Tree Hill and we would sit on the cliffside and watch the Scotland District. That used to be a beautiful sight. And we used to always hoping that I would be able to go down there. Because like children, we went no place except to school. So we spent a lot of time in Cherry Tree Hill and in Farley Hill.
I asked Peggy if she knew when Farley Hill House was burnt.
That burnt down after I was growing up. Actually, I can remember the time when Farley Hill was being developed for the film Island in the Sun. I remember when that was being constructed and changed up out there. I'm not so young. I've been around. Yes, I told you I know your mother even before she gave birth to you. Right. Don't laugh, because his grandmother used to attend the same church, the Apostolic Church that we used to go to. Yes, I remembered when they were doing the decorations. I remember they had lots of bay leaf branches, and they had them spray painted in different colors to decorate the whole place out there for the filming of the Island in the Sun. That was like in the late 50s or something like that right there. I was born in the 50s, but I can still remember a lot from growing up. Yes. So we used to go on Farley Hill and we used to play, and there were fruit trees out there too. Yes, they had an orchard out there, right in the back. So we used to go out there to get some of the fruits too. Yes. And where the wildlife reserve is now, that used to be a big, big forest. We used to call it the woods. We used to call it the butt woods. I used to tell people they developed Farley Hill now and we have to pay to go in there. I tell them that Farley Hill belongs to me. I grew up in Farley Hill. I knew every nook and cranny in Farley Hill because I used to go in there with my grandmother.
Back in Diamond Corner proper, there was a number of shops that kept the wheel of commerce spinning here in this community. But before we speak about the shops, it is worth it to pause and learn something about those famous and well sought after turnovers by Ivy.
There was a lady that used to live in the bottom of Diamond Corner. She used to make turnovers on a Saturday afternoon, and she didn't have enough to sell. Everybody wanted Ivy turnovers. And that was something too that we look forward to. Now I will say that there were 3 shops in this area. One is at the bottom, at Diamond Corner when you turn to come up the road to go to Nicholas Abbey. There's one shop there on the right. That was Hall's Bar and Grocery. And just a few feet away, there was another shop in Diamond Corner itself, which was operated by the Melvin Scantlebury. That was the one that supplied all the groceries, the kerosene, oil, bread, everything. And each one of them had a bar, of course, which was set aside for the men, and which, of course, children could not go into there. But there was another shop not far from here, it was just located there. It was operated by a lady called Mrs. Corbin.
Right here by this spot, she opened a small 2-door shop there. But that shop now was strictly goods.
Things like Fence-It, all those little things that the people in the neighborhood would probably want. Turnovers, rock cakes.
And soft drink, no alcohol, because she was going to church at Pentecost church, so she could not sell alcohol. So members from the church now move away from the shop below and will come down and patronize her. My father used to patronize, we'll make sure he patronized her.
Because Whitestone was a long way from here and the transportation was not that good. So we were kind of like self-sufficient in this little area. Everything that we wanted came from the shops. Even things like cheese cutters. Miss Corbin used to sell some cheese cutters that were made from a kind of cheese that was bought in a tin. It was a bright orange tin. It didn't need refrigeration because there was no electricity in this neighborhood when I was growing up. Electricity was introduced just prior to independence. I can remember when these poles were laid to be planted. I was a young girl, but I can't remember. And we were all overjoyed when we saw these poles coming because we knew we were going to get electricity. Although people were that poor, they did not directly have the electricity run to their homes because you had to wait. So the shops did not sell anything that was like perishable, but we still got our drinks chilled, especially on a Sunday. A truck would pass through selling ice, blocks of ice, and you could go and buy 25 cents in ice. We wrapped it in a crocus bag and kept it in a bucket. So we used to use that on a Sunday to chill our drinks. And then we also had a bread cart used to pass through, selling breads, although the shop sell bread, but the bread cart still used to pass through. Occasionally, you would get an ice cream on the cone. And then there was a man in, I think he came from Mile and a Quarter. His name was Morberts. He used to sell snowball. We call them snow cones these days. But that was some shaved ice, big blocks of ice that you were shaved, and then he added dye. And we would go to the cart to buy our snowball. But we carried our own, what you call tots. In those days, you had like the Ovaltine tot and the Milo tot with the handles, where the Ten Smith put the handles on. So all of us would journey up the road to buy our snowball. And even then too, on a Sunday, a truck used to pass through here from Morgan Lewis selling coconuts, because they had a lot of coconuts. If you go out there, you still see the remnants of the coconut trees. So a truck would pass through here selling coconuts. My cousin used to work on the truck, so when the truck moved off, he would always pedal a few extra ones for us, his family.
And so it came to pass here in the community of Diamond Corner. These are the elements that have made this community so special for its residents over the years. And so as we go forth celebrating our past and embracing our future, may we do so mindful of the importance of leaving behind those special artifacts that are truly representative of our communities, artifacts that point us in the direction of those good values and norms that made us better people. My Community continues next week at the same time. In the meantime, I'm encouraging you to take good care of yourself and look out for your neighbors. It's goodbye for now.
People want to know our smiling soul. Why?